Hey, welcome back to another episode of the Solid Podcast. This is season 2. I don't know. We did season 1, now we're in season 2, and we're in episode 5 or 6 or something.
Yeah, not sure exactly what episode.
Yeah.
We've had some good ones, though, and today's about to be a banger.
They have been really good, and I'm excited about today's. My name is Brandon Neal with my co-host here, Jeff Fieldstead. Our buddy Jefferson is down in the Virgin Islands right now with his family, so he's having a good time down there. We'll miss him today. But we have a special guest here for you today. His name is Ryan Flint, and if you're in the Utah area and you're in any type of real estate type development, you probably know who he is. He has just a really good brand, name, reputation, rightfully so. Very, very sharp human being, great family man. Very successful in what he does, and so we're excited to have him on today to learn from him and get some good nuggets here on how we can live a more solid life wherever he chooses to take us. So, Ryan, welcome.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks for being on.
It's an honor.
So tell us a little bit about yourself, man.
Well, I've been doing commercial real estate for just about 15 years, a little bit over, but I've been a business owner since the day I got home from my mission.
Okay. Where'd you go on your mission?
I was in Monterrey, Mexico.
Okay.
So northeast Mexico, and spent most of my mission on the border.
Right.
So it was very humbling. I came from a very great upbringing and playing sports and being an athlete. And when I got called to Monterrey, Mexico, I kind of threw my sports career kind of out the window. I had to make a choice, which was the best choice that I could have ever made for myself in that moment, even with not a very good testimony. But the influence of my friends and the people around me really motivated me to go on a mission. I look back 20 years and teach the youth in church, and I just tell them, it is so important at the age of 12, 11, up to 18, 19, how vulnerable you are. And some people don't think that, friends are such a big influence. And the influence that they gave me was incredible, because my family wouldn't have cared. They really were pretty passionate about me playing sports. And
what sport were you playing?
I played football, basketball, baseball, all growing up. And
the All-American,
and then I played,
huh?
Yeah, I loved it. I was addicted to it. I just, from one season to the other, and then I went on to play college baseball. And I loved athletics, but I'm telling you, when I decided to go on my mission, it was the greatest decision. I get my call to Monterrey, Mexico, had no idea where it was. I was pumped about learning Spanish, and then I realized that it's in the border town, drug capital,
cartel
country. And
they say that area of the world may collapse one day due to all the tunnels. Huh?
It very well could. And it was such a neat experience. I could talk for hours and hours and hours about the different, stories on how I built relationships in some areas with the heads of cartels, and how much they respected us, and the stories of times where they would call me and say, "Hey, stay in." Our curfew was get in by 9 o'clock, and he would call and say, "Hey, I need you in by 6, or I need you to go down this street." And it was really cool how we developed that relationship. So that really jump-started my life, even though it was very humbling. And what I loved about that area is just people love the Savior, and people love it was so easy to teach. They're so humble. They live in nothing, dirt floors, and anyways, it was just a really amazing experience.
Isn't it amazing? You can go to an area like that, and if you were to go down there as a citizen, there's no way you would go in the areas that you'd go as a missionary.
No.
I didn't go to Mexico, but I went to New Jersey, and so I was in
probably similar in a
Camden.
way.
Dude, some parts of Jersey are worse.
Well,
probably.
no, I'm telling you, Camden,
Yeah.
New Jersey, and little parts of Philly and stuff, and we just never had any fear. And like you say, the people that are in some of those areas are some of the most humble people.
Yeah.
And they do tend to respect you when you're there. And so it's a pretty special experience.
It is. It is. You can't describe it in words.
So you came home. What made you decide? Because a lot of missionaries will come home and still pursue athletics.
Yeah.
So what happened?
I came home, and I grew up with my wife, but we never dated before the mission. She was a year older in school, so that was kind of a big no-no. She liked the older guys, and, I ended up, hanging out with more of the younger girls and girls my age. But we were really good friends. We wrote back and forth as friends, and
that's how it all starts.
That's
she
how it all
sending
starts.
You letters.
Yeah, that's right. So she took me to lunch when I got home, and one thing led to another, and we ended up getting hitched pretty fast. And she comes from a family of a big commercial real estate developer. And, just that insecurity of me going, hey, she's lived this life for a long time. How can I provide that life for her like her dad did? And so I think a little bit of pressure was probably unnecessary pressure that I put on myself. But
what did your parents do?
My parents, I come from a divorced family, but my dad did all the lost and found and fraudulent stop for FedEx and was very successful, sold his company in 2018, 2017. And my other dad did something very similar. And but, I would say we both came from successful families, but that desire to provide quickly. She was already graduated from college when I got home from admissions, so she graduated high school early. She went to beauty school. She had her business finance degree, so I came home and I was way behind. So I went to a little bit of school, and I was just very hard on myself, saying, hey, I want to be that person that her dad was to her. And I think, like I said, a lot of it was probably unnecessary and rushed, but I'm glad I did it. I just put a lot of pressure on myself. I wanted to be something on my own. I could have went and worked for my dad, but I just wanted to make my own path. And when I asked her dad to work for him initially, when I got my license, he said no. He said, I want you to go get 10,000 hours under your belt and then come to me and maybe you can help me list a property. And I think it was way beyond 10,000 hours before he gave me a project. And to be honest, I couldn't be more grateful for that either, because we've had a very good working relationship, and I've sold some big portfolios for him, but there was never any handouts. And that's one thing that, I'm grateful for my parents. And I think it's made me into the businessman and professional that I am today, is because I didn't get handouts when I very easily could have.
Talk a little bit about, because as you're talking about this, so people know, and I know you probably don't ever like to sound like you're bragging about yourself, but brag about yourself a little bit. Tell us some of the accomplishments you've made in business, and because you're alluding to that now, but you've done some big things and are doing big things now and are involved with a lot of exciting projects, just so people kind of know, why do I need to listen to this guy?
You know what, I when I started in real estate, I knew I didn't want to do residential, and it wasn't really anything in particular. It was more of, I wanted to deal with business owners. I wanted to deal with very sophisticated, fun, big projects that I could do for years and years and years. And obviously I wanted to learn the development game as well. But, plus the residential real estate world, agent world, is so oversaturated. Everyone's mother-in-law's sister's brother's dad is an agent, and they pop out of the woodworks. I wanted to not just be a commercial real estate broker, but I wanted to be a corporate real estate broker, meaning I wanted to represent Fortune 500 companies. And I know, being 21, 22, 23 years old, that's kind of a long shot. And my average peer in that world was in their 50s. And so I knew that there was a big learning curve, but I just put my head down and I said, that's what I want. And I think one thing I learned from sports, I learned from the mission, is you can have anything that you want if you're willing to go get it. And so I started in real estate, and I got in. My dad actually had about a 300,000 square foot warehouse that he did all of his FedEx lost and found stuff, distribution center. And when I got my license, I obviously leaned on him, like, hey, introduce me some of your friends and business owners, and I'll prove myself. But he said, hey, look, I've got 8 acres in the back of my warehouse that we have no use for. It's zoned industrial. Why don't you crack your egg on that, and I'll treat you as if I treated any other broker. But he said, but I would recommend calling an industrial specialist that has done this and get some help, get some mentorship, get some guidance. So I did my research, and I ended up finding somebody that I knew of. And we ended up partnering on that deal, co-listed that deal, and sold it to Peterbilt a couple of months later. But I did all the work. I mean, he gave me kind of some marching orders and mentored me through it. But I knocked the doors, I made the calls, and when that deal got closed, like I said, I didn't get any special treatment on it or anything. It was just so rewarding. And to work with a company like Peterbilt, that was a pretty good first deal to see how it all worked, and I just fell in love with the business at that point. So during that process, this senior broker said, "Hey, I would love for you to come work with me and kind of be my junior or intern or whatever it was," and that was my way in. So I'm super grateful. 9 months later, almost a year later after working with him, I remember getting a really big deal done that I would say I was very involved with. I never want to give myself all the credit, but I was very involved with that deal. And we were sitting in the conference room, in the boardroom, and this was a second largest corporate real estate firm in the world that I worked with. So, I mean, good on paper. But I'm sitting there in the boardroom after we're celebrating, and I'm a relationship guy. I have been since I was really little. I think I got along with most of my friends' parents. When I would go to their houses, I'd end up talking to the parents. That's just how I was. But I was a relationship guy. I always have been. That's always been the backbone of who Ryan is. And the leader steps up in the conference room and he says, "All right, we're only as good as our next deal. Let's move on." Like this, essentially telling the group, like, this deal's done. We got paid. They're dead to us. Let's move on. And that just didn't sit right with me, because I was raised watching my dad run an enormous business all based on customer service. And I would watch from afar, and my dad doesn't know this. He does, based on podcasts and stuff and stories that I tell when I speak. But I watched him from afar dive into boxes and treat a handicapped janitor that he would essentially hire just out of the goodness of his heart, treat them the exact same as he would his president. My dad never showed off. He never went to the office all buttoned up. He was just a very humble, drove a pickup truck. And back then I didn't know any better. But now that I am a business guy and I've been doing it for a long time, I see that. I look back and I'm like, man, I just want to emulate the way that my dad was. And so I went to my dad in that moment and I said, "Dad, this is what happened. This is what was said. And maybe I'm just overthinking it, but it really rubbed me wrong. Give me some advice." And he said, "Ryan, you're never as good as your next deal. You're only as good as the relationships that you have and the relationships that you keep," right? It's not about who you know, but it's about who knows you. And they're going to remember the good things, but they're going to remember even more if you do something wrong. And so that really just resonated with me. And I asked my dad, I said, "Do you think I could create a commercial real estate, a corporate real estate brand around myself that's based on loving people and customer service?" And it's not like residential real estate, right, where it's more fun and personable.
Because it's a cutthroat world usually, yeah.
It's not dog eat dog, it's shark eat shark. And I was the little guy. And so I just started saying, okay, if I start from the ground, I'm going to make sure that every interaction, people just remember going, "He's a great guy," right? Whether I got the job, whether I impressed them or not, I just wanted to be somebody that were like, "That was a good conversation," even on a cold call. And I would always hear from these senior brokers that I was being mentored by, quote unquote, they would talk negative about these other corporate brokers from other firms. And a lot of it, what I realized was it was probably just a little bit of jealousy. And so I thought, well, why don't I start by being really good friends with these other brokers from other firms? And so that when I'd show up to an appointment or I'd show up to a showing, I really authentically and genuinely just got to know them and started loving them. And it was weird. I almost feel like God blessed me really quickly for them to go, "Whoa, yeah, he's young, but I kind of want to help him because he's such a nice guy." And I know there's a difference between being a good man and a nice guy, and I think I was just a kid at that point. But I built my business on love and customer service, and I never looked back. And I think that's what really has separated me from, the rest of the business.
It's awesome.
Yeah,
Love to hear
it's
that.
really neat.
So So you did some of these big deals that got you started. What's the most amount of real estate you sold in a year?
Oh gosh, I honestly I never look at the numbers, and I know that sounds weird, but I'll tell you, probably my most fun year was in COVID. We were at home and we got a call, and I was with another large real estate firm, and most of the senior partners were retail brokers, and I did a lot of industrial and office and a lot of land. And we kind of had a senior executive call, and they said, "Hey, I think we're gonna kind of shut down. COVID. This is something that we've never seen." And I was too young to experience the '07, '08, '09 era, so I didn't know any better. I didn't have social media at that time. I was using LinkedIn, but more just to look up business owners. But I was very inexperienced with it.
How many years had you been in real estate at this point?
Oh,
in
I was
COVID?
probably 8 or 9, 10 years in.
So you got going 2012, 2013?
Somewhere in there, yeah. And I remember sitting on my couch downstairs going, okay, I can go one of two directions. I can listen to what all these senior executives are doing, and they probably have enough wealth that they can probably hang on for a year. I'm just still ramping up. I feel like I'm just full speed ahead. And I remember just going, okay, what can I do in a way that just expresses what I'm going through so that people resonate? And at this point, I've got, thousands, tens of thousands of contacts. And some of my clients are big influencers. And so I'm reaching out to them going, hey, what are you doing in the influencer world? Because, yeah, I'm making phone calls, but there's a platform here that I could probably just film myself and tell them what I'm feeling. Tell them what I'm seeing. I'm reading the real estate news, and a lot of these landlords and tenants are going, hey, what do? We're shut down, or we're big manufacturing plants, and we've got a $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 a month lease, and what do we do? And I'm their broker, and I'm like, I don't know. So I just started going on a deep dive of just expressing my feelings. I kind of went from a social media of, hey, just sold, just listed, look at my properties, which is great, to turning it into more of a story, almost like a journal. And during that time, I was so blessed with a couple of clients that reached out saying, hey, I'm this manufacturer, but I want to open up this facility that's going to serve this. And during COVID in 2021, I had by far my very best years. The neatest deal that I did was a group out of Wisconsin. I can't name drop, but we ended up doing a 1.2 million square foot manufacturing facility, and it was not easy because we had to work with the Economic Development Corporation of Utah, the governor's office. We were doing all the economic incentives, and this is when everybody's locked down. So you're like, this is unbelievable, let alone, having a deal of this magnitude, let alone a deal alone. And during the process of that deal, I was blessed with another company that heard I was doing this deal, and they wanted to do a 300,000 square foot facility, build to suit. And getting those deals, I still think the 1.2 million square foot is the largest recorded industrial lease in the state. I could be wrong.
That's awesome.
I could be right, but it's not a clout ego thing. It was like, what a blessing in that moment of my life when I was so lost, didn't know what I was going to do, with all of this energy that kind of, I would say, it fell in my lap, and it was up to me to go execute on it. And I feel like we did a really good job. So
you say you got lucky, but I believe we created our own luck.
I'm
sure
agree.
you'd agree.
I don't
Preparation
think it was
meets
a coincidence.
opportunity, yeah.
So what are some things you think you did that led up to that lucky year?
I think it goes back to my love for people, my love for customer service. I think because I started to turn the camera around and I started to just share what I was feeling, and a lot of the information was just what I was reading, and a lot of the information was what I was hearing, but it was really genuine. And my dad always said, if I could teach you a couple things, is get caught doing the right thing rather than the stereotype of get caught doing the wrong thing. And no matter what you're going through in your life, just keep loving people, because it'll come right back around. That's when the coincidences aren't coincidences.
So were some of those relationships during that year attributed to relationships you built years prior?
Yes.
That made all that come together?
Yes, and it was a relationship that I made with a company that said, hey, they were connected. It's a Wisconsin company, and they wanted to be in either Phoenix, Salt Lake City, Reno, Vegas, and they called me. They didn't ask questions. They didn't really interview me. They said, "Hey, this contact that we have, our friend, essentially said, you don't need to interview anybody else. Ryan will take really good care of you. And if he doesn't know how to do it, he'll figure out a way to do it, or he'll bring somebody in that will help you do it." And that was a huge confidence booster. I remember picking them up from the executive airport in Salt Lake, flying in on a Gulfstream 550, and super intimidated. I was like, oh no, what do I got myself into? And just the amount of, I would say, humbleness that I had going, instead of flexing my guns and, oh, I can do this, it was like, let's do this together. I'll do everything that I can for you. I'll go the extra mile. And when that deal happened, it was so successful, not only just for the company that we were representing, but for the developer. I mean, imagine a developer going vertical with a spec 1.2 million square foot building going, how in the world am I going to make this happen? I mean, it's $100 million just to build the dang thing. And to have it all work together and both parties just be so happy at the end of the day. I mean, it wasn't about me. It was about delivering for them. And that's dovetailed into, that got a lot of press. And so it dovetailed into a lot of doors that opened. And then it was up to me to stay true to my values and say, hey, don't let it get to your head. Just keep loving, keep serving, and I've just built on that.
I love that that's a story during a time when most people responded with fear.
Yeah.
They retreated, they backed off,
Mm-hmm.
and you made the decision to do the opposite.
Yeah.
What do you think led up to that? Because I'm sure you saw a lot of peers. I'm sure you saw people that maybe you even looked up to in the space that they responded with fear during that time.
Yeah, a lot of them were like, hey, I think I'm just going to check out for 9 months, let this blow over. I don't know if it's going to be a 2 or 3 month thing or a year thing. And I kind of did the opposite. In any business, it's so important to have a personal brand. And I had, at that time, Ryan Flint team underneath a big brokerage. But it was kind of that inner thing. And my dad was a big part of this because he's been so successful. And he always sees the good in me. But it was, I either coast and just pray for something to happen and try to keep bringing it in, or I double down, and I double down on my marketing. I double down on building my personal brand. I double down on, my efforts, and now social media. It's when I turned on Instagram. It's when I started doing that, and I felt super dumb, super awkward. But I got myself really uncomfortable, and it was, you hear these business owners and these amazing stories. It's when you're expected to just wait it out. When all of my peers that I looked up to, that were all the successful guys, went on pause, it was like, no, I'm going to double down, and I'm going to put everything that I have into building my personal brand.
So coming on the other side of that, how did it make you feel? I mean, did it make you feel like I don't really have any competition? Like I really could be the best in my industry because I chose to confront fear when everybody else let it shut them down. It drove me to do the right thing.
To be honest, Jeff, maybe I was blessed this way in that moment, but I never compared myself to other brokers. I never told myself, like, there was people in my business that was like, I want to emulate what they do in this segment, or how they talk this way, or how they look, or how they present themselves, or I really like how they handle meetings or control the room. But there was never like one person that I really idolized or whatever. All I thought in that moment was, and I think this was a huge turning point in my life, was I just want to discover and create, rather than find, but discover and create the best Ryan. And I think during these adversity times where the world's telling you that it's not going to happen, was let's see what you're made of. And I really feel like that's where Ryan Flint came alive. And I had some really successful years before that, but I really think that was the moment in my career that turned the page for me.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
I love to hear that, because more often than not, people do the opposite. It's natural if the whole world is shutting down to be like, oh, everybody else is doing it. And that's not how I responded either, but most people do. So I love to hear that story. So good job, man. So coming out of 2020, 2021, you had this incredible experience. When did you decide to move to Southern Utah?
Last summer.
Okay. So
Last
then you have
spring.
all these successful years, and then you decide to go move to a whole new area. And the thing that I love about that is you've moved to an area which is a very connected group of people that control the real estate market in Southern Utah.
Very much so.
And you've done a phenomenal job of bringing the reputation that you already had and creating conversation around the reputation that everybody now knows what you knew up there, but then you came down here and did it. And there's a lot of people that have tried, and not very many people have made waves like you have in Southern Utah. So I'd love for you to talk about that journey because you have a family.
I do.
So moving your family from where they've grown up, you have all these relationships, all this success, you move them to a brand new place, and then have continued to have success in your business, but also would love to hear about how that impacted your family, what made you make the decision. I mean, why move? Why uproot everything and start over?
Yeah, so my father-in-law had bought a home down here. My dad's got a home down here, but my father-in-law bought a home down here when Barnes Bank went belly up in 08, 09. He bought a parade home up in Stonecliff, and so my wife and as we've had kids, we'd come down to St. George as much as possible. She came down a lot more than me, but every time that we came down here, there was just a new feeling, a new culture. I would wake up happy every day, and maybe it's the sunshine, the blue skies.
Don't say that too loud. We don't want people moving. Don't want too many people here.
It's already happening. The secret's out.
There was something about it for years and years and years that I just loved. And I never really thought about ever uprooting and moving the family. But in 2022, my grandma, that I like to say that she raised me, but she was my rock. And she passed away. And it put me into a really dark time of my life where business was great, lots of success. You know, the world was at my fingertips, I feel. The real estate world, my brand was built. We had a great team. We had a good thing going, and we were working on hundreds of deals at a time. Nothing was really bad. And when she passed away, and she was my rock, I remember having a little conversation with her right before she passed away, and I said, Grandma, what piece of advice that you would give me? I want to carry on your legacy. And she was a big entrepreneur. She owned a ton of tanning salons and tanning distribution, and she came from a very abusive relationship that she got the kids out and made something really special of herself. And there's not one person on the world that ever said anything mean about her.
This is on your mom's side or dad's side?
This is my mom's mom. She never missed a game. She was always the one that just shot me straight. A lot of people beat around the bush with me, and she was always the one that I talked to. I talked to her almost every day, whether it was 30 minutes or 3 seconds. Hey, Grandma, I'm slammed today. Let's talk tomorrow. But she said, Ryan, I just want you to start seeing yourself and being yourself that I know you can be, the way that I see you. And even with all your success and how much maybe you're loved, you've never seen yourself or acted like I know that you're able to do. And that rocked my boat because the day later she passed away. And so I went on a very spiritual, let's call it an inner spiritual journey of figuring out what that meant. And part of that, my wife and I hired I wouldn't call him a life coach, but we hired William Lamb. And he helps rewire your mental state. And during that training, we worked with him for several years, but during that training, he taught you how to design the life that you want. And what was really beautiful is the thing that resonated with me the most is my environment. I grew up in Davis County. I was a Kaysville boy, Davis boy, and there was nothing wrong with Kaysville, right? I had built an amazing business, had tons of friends and great clients, and my wife and I started to design who we wanted to be as individuals, what we wanted as a family, as a couple, as a marriage, in our faith. And part of that design was, what does our environment look like? Whether it's here in Kaysville or whether it's somewhere, right? And as we worked on that process, we kept thinking St. George. And then we came down to the Parade of Homes 2 years ago, and it was like, I could see myself here. And she said, I could see myself here too. And the kids were even saying, I could see ourselves here. And we've got teenagers in high school down to 6 years old. And as a parent, you're like, hey, I'll sacrifice my wants, my needs to make sure that I don't rock the boat with the kids, because that's really important with their sports and dance and everything. And so we kind of stewed on it. We talked about it, and things were great. We came down the next year, so this was a year ago, to the Parade of Homes, and we're walking around, and obviously you go through those Parade Homes, and you're just like, I just want to be here, right? But it goes back to...
It was raining both years, too.
Probably.
Yeah,
but
it never rains. It was raining both years.
It goes back to when you wake up here, like, I'm happy.
Yeah.
Like, and I know this might sound crazy, and I've always been a kind of a fit guy. I love the gym and eating healthy and good lifestyle, but it's like being down in St. George, it makes me want to be more fit, eat more healthy. I'm more motivated to work out. I enjoy it a lot more. I'm out walking when I'm not out walking up north, and I think there's a little bit of that seasonal depression with the air up there, but I won't get into that. But we were down there, and the kids, essentially, we all sat down, and it was a family decision. And what's been really special, so I moved down in April, and at the end of April, and I was just staying at my father-in-law's house in Stonecliff. And I would come down, Sunday night, and I'd work, and I'd go home Friday for the weekend. And I was doing that for about a month and a half. And I started just to develop relationships. And I knew coming into a new community, I've done deals down here. We own properties down here, and I have a lot of friends and great relationships. Is you've got this, call it big corporate broker from Salt Lake City that, volume's a lot different.
City slicker.
Yeah. Buttoned up a little bit more. I was a shirt and tie and suit guy every single day for 15 plus years. And I come down here, and I thought to myself, maybe in an insecure way of, I'm going to come down here and start my commercial real estate business. And I think there's going to be a lot of people that are my peers, even though they're my friends, are going to be like, what are you doing in my city?
Like a threat.
A threat. Like they might put their walls up, and they might, be weird or push me away or maybe talk negative. And what the coolest part about this was, it was the exact opposite. It was them reaching out to me, not even me reaching out to them, hearing that I was in town doing stuff, going, let me take you to lunch. How can I help you? Because in the same conversation, they would say, I really want you to help me too. And these are brokers that are more seasoned than me. And it was really cool because you don't get that up north. Everything is what's in it for me up north. And I don't want to be negative, but we did not run from Kaysville. We said, hey, we're going to keep our house. We kept our house up there. We can always go back, but let's come down and try it out. And the most beautiful thing about being in St. George, and we'll get into the real estate in a minute, but as providers, as somebody that, us as men that are the sole workers, it's kind of always our season. We think to ourselves, I got to go get my coaches, and I got to go be part of these masterminds, and I've got to go learn and watch these videos, and I'm the one out trying to slay it. And to watch it kind of pulling from the front. Like I feel like I've always led my family by pulling them from the front. And when I got down here, I started to see the way that my daughter was with her new dance group, and to see her shine, to see my kids in high school down to my 6-year-old get friends like they've never had before.
What high school are you guys in?
We're in Crimson.
Cool.
To see my wife, which she had friends up there, but she really never got out. To see her get into pickleball leagues and to move into a neighborhood, which was such a blessing. It was almost like I couldn't have designed it better. For her to make friends and go out to lunch and go to the temple and, do pickleball leagues and do more in 2 or 3 months than she's done in 10 years up north. I sat back and I was like, maybe this is the lesson that I'm getting, is this is their season, right? Here I am trying to think like, oh, I've got to come in and make a name and, go hard and provide. And I just sat back one day and I was like, oh my goodness, I think Heavenly Father just made us come here because this is their season. And I've kind of related it to, instead of pulling from the front, I've realized that my role is now pushing from the back. So I'm leading from the back and I'm the backstop. But to see my kids and my wife have a season like they've had down here, I couldn't be more grateful. And in the world of commercial real estate, with all the abundance that's down here, it wasn't like I hit the ground running. It was almost just like I hit the ground, and all of my friends, including, JKR, because we've done stuff with you guys in the past, it was almost like life was happening for me. And so I'm grateful every day, and it has not been like a normal move.
Yeah.
It's been like, this was definitely a designed from above.
I think it's interesting. You're just talking about your grandmother and how that was a transitionary point for you to maybe go from not as willing to willing to learn these lessons you're learning now. And how often I look back on my life and go, man, I think until we're willing, there's not much God can do for us, right? And sometimes we need those events to take place to help us do that. It sounds like that might be part of what happened there, but
you got to be willing to move. I always said God can't steer a parked car. You got to do something.
No, and I learned my wife and I learned from William that it's one thing to go and design the life that you want, but the only way for God to bless you fully and for you to be fully immersed is for you to take 100% action, right? 50-50 is like messing with your life, he says. 80-20, you're kind of, yeah, you like it, but there's like this hesitancy, there's reservations. But the minute that we went 100%, and I even went 100% on my business down here, and I've got stuff up there. I'll always have stuff up there in a team, but I wanted to be all Southern Utah, which is very weird coming from having so much success up there. And by doing that, it was almost non-coincidental, the blessings that came, the people that came into my life and that I came into their life. And it's been very reciprocal, whereas it's been, oh, I'm so grateful, but the people that I'm working with, including you guys, we're just as grateful that you're here. So it's been very fun. I use the word abundant all the time, and just so much love down here. I love it down here.
Well, it's like faith in action, right? A lot of people just say they have faith, but they're sitting around waiting.
Yeah.
You have faith when you're willing to risk everything, knowing that in the end it's going to turn out good. It's awesome.
So if I'm listening to this, okay, first of all, you did a lousy job of bragging about yourself, but that's okay. You're like 10x what you said, but that's okay because I get it. I don't like to talk about myself either, but you actually did a good job.
1.2 million square feet. I mean, that's pretty good.
That's pretty dang good. That's amazing.
That was a neat deal.
Yeah, that was a neat deal. That's a big deal.
Just emphasize that a little bit. I mean, if you understand that, I mean, we're in a pretty good sized business complex, and it would take maybe 10 of these to be 1.2 million.
It was pretty neat. It was a really good experience.
So come on, man, give him.
He did a good job. I'm just giving up to him.
I don't like to brag about myself.
I get it. But my point is that was a big deal, and I'm sure there's much more that you are not telling us, and that's what I mean. I can tell. And I've only gotten to know you just very recently, but you can just tell when somebody's put in the work, lived the great life. And I believe in redemption, and there's a lot of people that may be listening to this that are just trying to get their life on track. Yeah. Maybe not just in business, but maybe the personal life. Maybe it's their marriage. Maybe it's with their children. Any advice that you'd give to those types of people where they look at you, you're fit, you're great looking, great family, you're crushing life. You really are, What would you say to somebody who's maybe like, I'm looking at this guy, I can't be that good.
Maybe they're miserable at their job. They're overweight and out of shape. They're just miserable.
Yeah.
Where do they start?
Well, I appreciate the nice words, but it wasn't always that way. I've had many dark moments in my life. I mean, I talked about when my grandma passed away, but I'm given very high level. I went into a full depression to where I didn't even want to live. It got that bad, and it didn't, all the success in the world and all the notoriety and social media and all that, I wanted to turn it all off. I would have given everything away to have her back, even if it was for one more day. And through that journey, I really think the the way where you see success, or even if it's not monetarily, but it's just people are progressing in life. There's a moment in their life, if not moments, and I've had many moments, right? It's not just one little scrape on the ground, but I have been through hell multiple times and back. And I truly believe it's because of those moments of really testing yourself and having good people in your corner. I think relationships and having an amazing a wife that just supported me, and she had 100 reasons why just to kick me to the curb, and I think that a lot of us can say that, but just that support and that love and friends that rallied around me, it's you got to put in the work, and what you see on the outside isn't always what's going on in the inside. And I think that if you can focus on the person that you see in the mirror, like what my grandma said, is I just want you to see yourself the way that I see you. And what that related to was, I want you to see yourself in the very best light. And as men and businessmen, we have a hard time with that. We are our very worst critic. Some guys will take their shirt off and they are a model with a six-pack and a perfect body, and they're going to find a flaw, right? Whereas 99% of the men would just give anything to look half as good. And so instead of having an ego, it was this process that I went through. It was a couple of years that and I got a lot of help. I did a lot of therapy. I leaned on a lot of different people, and my hormones were bad. I had health issues, and I really went through hell. I feel like I made it there and back a couple of times, and I'm just grateful that I made it back. But it was because of the people, and I just remember saying, hey, if I ever get to a place where I come out of this, and I remember praying, saying, Heavenly Father, if you get me through this, I will commit the rest of my life to helping people, right? And it's not about the real estate. It's not about the money. It's not about anything. All I care about is to be healthy, to feel abundant, to feel love for myself, and to be genuine and have more experiences where I'm getting caught doing the right thing rather than the wrong thing, right? And bring people up. And I love my dad's comment. He always says, just be authentic without having to tell people you're authentic. And in the world of social media, you just see a lot of perfectionism. And so I've just tried really hard, and I'm still a work in progress, but I just try really hard to love people. And if I can sprinkle in my real estate expertise and help a business grow, or help position my friends to have a very successful life when it comes to real estate or connections, then I'll do it without any obligation in return. And so that was my prayer, saying, hey, if you heal me from the inside out and I can start seeing myself the way that my grandma sees me, I will give my life to you. And so that's what I did. And so now my life's a lot different. I still am full-fledged real estate, but the way I do business is a lot different. And what's really neat is the success has been in so much more abundance, and it's enjoyable. And it's enjoyable to bring others up with you. And, I make time. I work in the temple once a week, which, having a life and a schedule like mine, you'd think, how in the world do you do that? But it's the greatest thing that's ever happened to me, because I have that reset every week. And, a lot of my clients are Jewish and from other religious backgrounds. Not that we ever really talk religion, but, they ask me about it. They know that on Thursday afternoons I'm unavailable. And I had a conversation with one of my clients yesterday that, said, hey, the San Diego temple is being renovated here in a couple of months, and I want to fly you out because they're going to have a reopen house, and I want you to walk me through and tell me all about it. Right?
Awesome.
And so you look at that and you're like, this world is, you can be really successful and you can be a really good guy, but if you have your foundation and your inner core, you really can do a lot of good for other people. It's not always about you.
1,000%. In fact, I think the less you make it about you, the more of an impact you have on others, and the better you actually feel about you.
Yeah. And
right? It's interesting how that works.
Yeah,
It's
abundance is a real thing.
Yeah, you think about
It really
yourself
is.
less, you end up feeling better about yourself. It's interesting how that works.
It is.
Yeah.
And I feel like by having that mindset shift, I've been blessed with better health. I've been blessed to have a better mind, and I feel like my knowledge in the real estate world is even more powerful than it's ever been.
It's awesome.
Which is a really neat feeling.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing all that. Without those dark times, how do we realize what the good times can be, and how do we make those changes, and would we ever change? Would we ever become who we're supposed to become without those, right?
Well, and it's interesting because most people who have never made a decision to go chase their dreams or become the best version of themselves, they'll look at somebody and assume that, one, they've arrived, and two, that from their perspective it looked easy, right? And I think that's a common misconception. And I've always said, you take somebody, you circle people up in a circle, and if everybody threw their problems out in the middle of that circle, odds are you'd probably still take your own and leave with what you came with. Because most of the time, if we really knew what people are struggling with, one, we would see them differently, but two, we would actually be more grateful for the life that we have, right? But I love your story, dude, because even though people see that, I hope that they get from this. I've always said, if you're going through hell, don't stop, just keep going. Eventually you'll get to a better place, right?
Get through there quickly.
Yeah.
If you can.
But it's not always comfortable. In fact, I think that process is what molds us and shapes us to be better men because, one, we have more empathy, which is something I'm always working on, have more empathy for other people. Because I just always assume.
He's always telling me I'm weak.
I give him a hard time always. Someone's got to give him a hard time, right? But no, I think that it's supposed to be challenging, right? It's supposed to be hard. And even though we would like it to be easy, and when I say it's supposed to be hard, it's not hard like physically. It's just you've got to be willing to learn and grow and get better and go through those challenges. And then eventually those things that were challenging before, eventually you get better at them. And it becomes you leveled up your skill set and with whether it's with family or with relationships and it's those seasons of trials and testimony that give us the ability to be grateful for, one, the things that we have, but also the things that we've been through, right? And I think there's a lot of people that listen to this and they do. They have this desire, man, I want to be somebody. I want to go change my life. I want to go do something big. And I think you've given a really good roadmap around what it really takes, right? Regardless of the circumstances where somebody started. Because even though you did have maybe an environment that was better than most growing up, right? You still didn't use that as a tool in order to go achieve a successful life.
Yeah.
But I'm sure it helps now, right?
Absolutely.
How's your relationship with your father-in-law at this point?
Amazing. I feel like I've got great relationships, and what's really neat is my biological father that I was talking to you about. Mm-hmm. We've always been really close, but my relationship with my Flint dad and my mom that hasn't always been the best. Since moving down to St. George, it's actually 100 times different. So awesome. Even that blessing alone is so neat. Something that you mentioned about hard times is, to use the analogy is there's just so many people that I work with and I mentor a lot of people right now and work with all sorts from the new agents to the, very successful businessman. Is so many people don't know how to get out of that hard time. They go further down the hole. And like you said, the best way through hell is just to keep going, mm-hmm. right? And it's hot for a while. Mm-hmm. But it's like saying instead of going around the storm, the best way to do it is just go right through it. Yeah. Because it's going to hurt. There's consequences. It's going to sting. There might be relationships that are no longer relationships. There might be things that you need to sacrifice. There might be habits that you need to change. But there's a lot of humbling that goes through there. And if you're willing to learn and you're willing to just face the storm, whatever kind of storm that is, it's always blue skies at the other side if you're willing to do it. And awesome. Too many people try to go around it. And I'll tell you what, that journey around it's a long journey.
Well, and you're avoiding it, and if you avoid it, you're eventually going to have to face all those things.
That's right.
Eventually, you're going to have to. So
eventually, you're going to have to go.
You either
through
can
it.
keep trying to go around them and put them off, but and the longer it goes, the harder it is to get through them, right?
And it's so important to have good people in your life, right? And what I love about our friendships is there at any given point, there's always a person that you know that you're close to that's going through something.
Mm-hmm.
And they may not show it in the office. They may put on a facade like we all do.
Mm-hmm.
But as you really love them and they open up to you, instead of judging them, you just say, hey, I got you.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's going to be a time and a point where you're going to need them.
Yeah.
And the more really good people that you have pulling you and helping you and pushing you from behind, then you can be that person.
Yep.
And so I always tell people my greatest superpower is probably my relationships, my reach, my network. My circle's really big, but in all reality, guys, my circle's so small.
Mm-hmm.
And that small circle of people we would do anything for each other.
Yeah.
We'd run in front of a bus, and that's a very important, is be that person that someone will call at 3:00 in the morning to come, whether it's come give me a blessing or it's come pick me on the side of the road, or, hey, I'm having an issue with my spouse, and it's like, I got you,
mm-hmm.
right? And it's not, hey, yeah, just leave and go create a better life. It's the friend that says, no, you're in the wrong. Get back in there and apologize and be accountable and go fix it.
Mm-hmm.
Go fix it. That's a friend.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Too much of the world is like, just run.
Yeah.
There's the grass is greener on the other side,
Yeah.
and I'll tell you what, it's not.
Right.
It's not. And that's where true friendship comes.
Love that.
And in real estate, I always say I just go shopping with my friends.
Yeah.
You work with people that are loyal to you, and there's loyalty back. And at the end of the day, it's a deal's a deal. It's it's just a transaction that helps you grow your business and your wealth. But when you go shopping with your friends, you protect them.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Some good lessons today.
Yeah.
I'm glad we had you on, man. I think that what SOLID stands for, this was a clinic on what our podcast stands for. So thanks, man. Thanks for being that example. Thanks for having the reputation in our community, enough for us to build a friendship and get you on here today. But I know it's going to make a big impact on a lot of people listening. So
I'm grateful to be on. I'm very grateful for our relationship. It's very unique, and we're doing some really fun things, and we're just getting started, guys.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Exciting. Thank you so much for being on with us today.
Thank you.
It's been awesome.
Yep, it's my honor.
Well, there you go. Another episode wrapped up here. Be sure to like, subscribe, share with everyone you possibly can. Obviously, a message like this from Ryan Flint can impact so many people in a positive way. So thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. Until then, stay solid.